the Battaugh Swamp story. The old man lived in the Battaugh Swamp, deep up in the woods. Well, he never did a lot of harm in the world, but, well, he never did do a lot of good neither. Well, people didn't think too much of him. Well, they thought he all acted kind of funny. But the old man didn't care about people anyway. All he cared about was his money. Now he'd stuff it all down into mason jars and he'd bury it all around. And on certain nights, if the moon was right, he'd dig it up out of the ground. He'd pour it all out on the floor of his shack, and he'd run his fingers through it. Yeah, Willie Butts was a greedy old man, and that's all there was to it. Now, the Markey boys, well, they were white trash, and they lived over on the Battaugh Creek. Neighbors mean as a snake and sneaky as a cat, and they were belligerent when they'd speak. Now one night the oldest brother said, "Y'all meet me at the Battaugh Swamp later, and we'll take old Willie's money, and we'll feed him to the alligators." Well, the plan came to action, and off the boys went. There's some things in this old world you just can't explain. Now they found the old man out in the back with a shovel in his hand and 13 rusty mason jars he'd just dug up out of the sand. Now immediately they turned into savages and they beat the old man into a bloody pool. And after the frenzy, they picked him up off the ground and threw him into the swamp. And they stood there and laughed until the black water sucked them down. They turned around and went back to the shack and they picked up the rest of the money and ran. But they hadn't gotten nowheres when they'd realized they were running in quicksand. Now they struggled and they screamed and they couldn't get away. But just before they went under, they could hear that old man laughing in a voice as loud as thunder. Now if you go by there yet, it's been 50 years. And there's a spot in the yard in the back of that shack where the ground is always wet. And on certain nights, if the moon is right, and you're down by that dark footpath, you can hear 3 young men screaming, and you can hear one old man